3:17 p.m. A federal courtroom. The air feels heavy before a single word is spoken, reporters scribbling, family members holding their breath, and then one sentence lands that changes everything. Not a verdict, not yet, but a development that has social media going crazy. A detail that nobody expected to resurface. A name that hasn't left the culture since 2020 suddenly echoes again inside conversations about Lil Durk. And that name? King Von. Rewind the tape. Because this didn't start today. It didn't start this week. And according to sources close to the situation, it may not even be about one single moment. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high online within minutes. Twitter timelines flooded. TikTok clips looping courtroom sketches, old interviews, lyrics. People are now reanalyzing like evidence. But here's what nobody is telling you. This isn't just a case. This is power, loyalty, industry pressure, and a timeline that when you really sit down and follow the paperwork starts to look a lot more complicated than what headlines are saying. Prosecutors allege one version, the defense is preparing another, and in the middle of it all, there's a question that refuses to go away. Why is King Von's name resurfacing now? Let that sink in. Because if you think this is just coincidence, you might want to keep watching. Before the headlines, before the courtroom dates, before social media started going crazy, there was a different story being written, one that looked like success, loyalty, and a carefully built empire. At the center of it all stood Lil Durk, a name that didn't just represent music, but an entire movement shaped out of Chicago. Think about the timeline for a second. Early 2010s, Durk emerges from a city already known for its raw, unfiltered drill sound. By 2013, he signs deals, builds connections, and slowly transitions from local voice to national figure. By 2020, he's not just an artist, he's a brand, a leader, a businessman navigating an industry that rewards success but never forgets where you came from. Now bring in another name, King Von. Their connection wasn't just industry level. According to sources close to the situation, it was deeper than that. Shared history, shared environment, shared experiences that fans felt every time they heard a track. Von's rise was fast, almost explosive. By 2019, his storytelling style had people locked in. By 2020, he was becoming one of the most talked about new voices in hip-hop. And Durk? He stood beside him, publicly supporting, collaborating, and, as fans believe, guiding that rise behind the scenes. Let that sink in. Two artists, tied not just by music, but by narrative. And that narrative mattered because it built a fan base that wasn't just listening, they were invested, emotionally, personally. You could see it in the comments, the reposts, the debates. This wasn't just entertainment anymore. This was identity. But here's what nobody is telling you. While the spotlight showed success, the industry behind it was moving differently. Labels, contracts, distribution deals, millions of dollars flowing through systems that most fans never see. According to publicly available records, Durk's label ventures and partnerships grew significantly between 2020 and 2023. That means more money, more influence, but also more pressure. Because in this business, the higher you climb, the more eyes are on you. Not just fans, but executives, competitors, and sometimes people with completely different interests. And then, the 6th of November 2020, Atlanta. King Von loses his life in an incident outside a nightclub. The news spreads instantly, social media explodes, fans are shocked, emotions ran high, but beyond the public grief, something else started forming questions, narratives, speculation, nothing confirmed, but the kind of conversations that don't disappear. Think about the timeline again. After that moment, everything around Durk began to shift. Musically, you could hear it. More pain, more reflection, more references to loss and loyalty. Personally, according to interviews and public appearances, he appeared more guarded, and business-wise, the stakes only got higher. Because now, he wasn't just carrying his own story, he was carrying a legacy that fans weren't ready to let go of. Here's the emotional part people overlook. A mother loses a son, a community loses a voice, and an artist like Durk, he's left navigating grief in public. According to social media posts from that time, tributes flooded in daily. Fans tagging both names together, refusing to separate their stories. The connection didn't fade, it grew stronger. Now fast forward. Between 2021 and 2024, Durk's career hits new peaks. Charting albums, sold-out shows, major collaborations. On paper, everything looks like success. But behind the scenes, sources close to the situation say the pressure never left. Because in hip-hop, past and present are always connected. Always. And that brings us to the present narrative. Because when legal situations begin to form, and we'll get into the exact details later, people don't just look at the charges, they look at history. They connect dots. Sometimes accurately, sometimes not. Social media is saying one thing, fans believe another, and nothing is confirmed yet. But one thing is clear, the story didn't start with a courtroom. It started years earlier, with relationships, decisions, and moments that seemed unrelated at the time. Now here's the question you have to ask yourself. If you follow the timeline closely, was this all just coincidence? Or were the signs there from the very beginning? Late 2024, according to court documents and multiple reports, federal authorities begin tightening their focus around Lil Durk. Not overnight, not random, this is where the true crime angle starts to come into play. Because cases like this aren't built in a day, they're layered. Piece by piece, phone records, travel logs, financial transactions. Let that sink in. Prosecutors allege that the situation traces back to a chain of events tied to prior conflicts in the rap world. Nothing is confirmed yet, but according to sources, investigators started connecting timelines who was where, when, and why. Think about the timeline carefully. Dates, locations, movements. This is where it stops being music headlines and starts looking like a federal case file. Then comes a key detail. August 2022. Los Angeles. An incident occurs that would later become central to the case narrative. According to publicly discussed reports, a targeted situation allegedly involving Quando Rondo resulted in the tragic death of someone close to him. Prosecutors allege this was not random. They claim it was organized, planned. But again, these are allegations, not confirmed facts. Now follow the paperwork. Court filings reportedly spanning thousands of pages begin referencing digital evidence. Phone pings, rental vehicles, surveillance footage. According to sources close to the situation, investigators are said to have tracked movements across state lines. This matters legally, because once something crosses state lines, it can become a federal issue. That's where terms like conspiracy and interstate commerce start appearing. Let's break that down simply. A conspiracy charge, in legal terms, doesn't mean someone had to carry out an act themselves. Prosecutors allege it can mean planning, coordinating, or being part of an agreement. That's a key point, because it shifts how responsibility is viewed in court. Now here's where tension builds. October 2024. Reports surface that Durk has been taken into custody. Social media explodes instantly. Fans are shocked. No way this is real, one post reads on X, formerly known as Twitter. Instagram fills with reposts, theories, and debates. Emotions ran high. People are divided. Some are saying, this doesn't make sense. Others are saying, we saw this coming. Nothing is confirmed yet, but the conversation is everywhere. According to court documents, prosecutors allege Durk had connections to individuals involved in the situation. Again, alleged, not proven. But in a federal case, even connections can become significant. That's where the evidence layering becomes critical. Sources say investigators may be looking at communication records. Who called who, when, for how long. Even deleted messages can sometimes be recovered. Let that sink in. Then comes another layer, financial records. Unconfirmed reports suggest authorities could be examining transactions, payments, transfers, anything that might support a broader narrative. Because in cases like this, prosecutors don't rely on one piece of evidence. They build a story, step by step. Meanwhile, the defense pushes back. According to legal analysts, the defense strategy in cases like this often focuses on separating association from action. Just because someone knows someone doesn't mean they're responsible for what happened. That's a critical distinction, and it's likely to become a major point as the case develops. Now look at the public reaction again. Fans are digging into old interviews, lyrics, even social media posts trying to connect dots. TikTok videos breaking down timelines, YouTube channels pushing theories, some accurate, some not. Social media is going crazy, and right in the middle of it all is one question people keep asking. Why is King Von's name coming back into conversations? There is no confirmed legal link stated in official documents tying him directly to this case. Let's make that clear. But fans believe the history, the relationships, and past events are somehow connected. Not proven, just discussed. That's how narratives form. Not always from facts, but from patterns people think they see. Now bring it back to the legal reality. As of early 2026, the trial that many expected to begin in April has reportedly been pushed back, delayed. That alone raises questions. In federal cases, delays can mean multiple things: more evidence being reviewed, legal motions being filed, or both sides preparing for a longer battle. Think about what that means. More time, more scrutiny, more pressure. And for Durk, he remains at the center of it all, facing allegations that could carry serious consequences if proven. But again, nothing is confirmed yet. The court has not reached a verdict. The process is still unfolding. So now you have all the pieces laid out in front of you. Dates, locations, allegations, reactions. But here's what nobody is telling you. Even with all this information, the full picture still isn't clear. And that's exactly what makes this story so intense. Now the story shifts from evidence to impact, from paperwork to people, because once the headlines settle, what's left is the fallout. And for Lil Durk, that fallout isn't just legal, it's personal, emotional, and cultural all at once. Fans are shocked, but behind the scenes, according to sources close to the situation, the pressure has been building on everyone connected to him. Family members, friends, collaborators, each one pulled into a spotlight they never asked for. Let that sink in. A case like this doesn't just sit inside a courtroom, it spills into living rooms, group chats, late-night phone calls. According to unconfirmed reports, relatives have been trying to keep a low profile, avoiding public statements while the legal process unfolds. But emotions ran high in subtle ways. A Facebook post allegedly from a family member read, "We're staying strong through it all." No details, no explanation, just a sentence carrying weight. Think about the human side for a moment. A mother watching her son's name trend not for music, but for allegations. A family navigating headlines that mix facts with speculation. Nothing is confirmed yet, but the emotional cost? That's already real. People are divided. And that division doesn't just exist online, it reaches into personal relationships, into communities that have followed this story from the beginning. Now, look at the industry. Because here's what nobody is telling you. When an artist at this level faces legal uncertainty, the business doesn't stop, it shifts. Quietly, strategically. According to industry insiders, release schedules get paused. Collaborations become uncertain. Brands that once lined up for partnerships suddenly take a step back, not publicly, but behind closed doors. This is the power angle. Music is art, but it's also a business. And business reacts fast to risk. Streaming numbers may still be strong, but conversations change. Executives start asking questions. Teams begin planning for multiple outcomes. Not because anything is confirmed, but because uncertainty itself carries weight. Meanwhile, the fan base is reacting in real time. On platforms like X and Instagram, debates are non-stop. Some fans are defending Durk, pointing out that allegations are not convictions. Others are saying the seriousness of the charges can't be ignored. Social media is going crazy, and every new update, no matter how small, becomes a major talking point. And then there's the name that keeps resurfacing, King Von. Again, to be clear, there is no confirmed legal connection stated in official court documents linking him directly to this case. But that hasn't stopped the conversation. Fans believe the history between them matters. They revisit old interviews, lyrics, moments that once felt like music but now feel like clues. A clip from a past interview recently went viral again. In it, Durk allegedly said, "We've been through a lot together." At the time, it sounded like loyalty. Now, people are analyzing every word differently. That's how perception changes. Now, let's bring in the legal perspective again. The defense, according to analysts, is expected to challenge the prosecution's narrative aggressively. Their focus will likely be on separating association from responsibility. Just because someone is connected to certain individuals doesn't mean they're involved in alleged actions. That distinction is critical in court. On the other side, prosecutors will attempt to build a timeline that shows coordination, intent, and connection. Not necessarily direct action, but involvement. That's where federal cases become complex. It's not always about what you did, it can be about what you allegedly knew or planned. Let that sink in. Two completely different narratives forming at the same time. And in the middle of it all, a person, a family, a career built over years now facing its biggest test. there's also the community angle that doesn't get enough attention. Chicago, Atlanta, the place is tied to this story. Fans who grew up watching these artists rise, now trying to process what's happening. For some, it feels like history repeating. For others, it feels like something entirely different. A comment under a viral post said, "We just want the truth. Simple, but powerful." Because that's what this comes down to. Not theories, not speculation. Truth. But right now, nothing is confirmed yet. And until it is, the fallout continues emotionally, culturally, and across an industry that's watching very closely. Now zoom out and look at the wider frame, because this story isn't just about a single case, it's about the system surrounding it. Hip-hop has always been more than music. It's culture, business, identity, and sometimes conflict all existing at the same time. And when a situation like this unfolds around Lil Durk, it forces people to ask deeper questions, not just about what happened, but about how the industry itself operates. Rewind the tape for a second and think about the pattern. Artists rise from environments that shape their stories. Those stories become music. That music builds fan loyalty. Labels invest millions into that authenticity because it sells. But here's what nobody is telling you: when real-life circumstances start overlapping with the image that was marketed, the line between art and reality becomes blurred. And once that line disappears, everything gets complicated. Let that sink in. Because now, every lyric is being re-examined. Every past interview is being replayed. Fans are going back years, pulling clips, trying to find meaning in moments that were never meant to be evidence. Social media is going crazy with breakdown videos, TikTok timelines, YouTube deep dives. People are divided between those who believe this is all being misunderstood and those who think the signs were always there. But here's the critical part: none of those interpretations are court rulings. Follow the paperwork. At the end of the day, federal cases rely on documented evidence, not online theories. Court documents, verified records, testimony under oath, those are the things that will shape the outcome. Everything else, conversation. And conversation can be powerful, but it can also be misleading. Now bring the industry angle back into focus. When an artist at Durk's level faces this kind of situation, it doesn't just affect him, it sends a message across the entire industry. Labels start reassessing risk. New artists entering the game are watching closely. Managers, executives, even brand partners begin adjusting how they move. According to sources, situations like this can quietly influence contract clauses, insurance policies, and promotional strategies moving forward. This is the power structure at work. Because hip-hop isn't just about talent, it's about positioning. Who gets support, who gets distance, and how narratives are shaped in real time. District-level conversations start happening behind closed doors. Not public, not visible, but impactful. And then there's the cultural side. The connection to King Von continues to live in the conversation, not as a confirmed legal element, but as a symbolic one. Fans aren't just talking about events, they're talking about legacy, about what was lost, what changed, and whether the past is still influencing the present. A resurfaced fan comment recently said, "It feels like the story never ended." That line alone explains why his name keeps coming up. Not because of confirmed facts in this case, but because emotionally, the audience never closed that chapter. Think about that. In hip-hop, stories don't just disappear, they evolve. They get retold, reinterpreted, sometimes misunderstood. And when something new happens, people connect it to what they already know, even if the connection isn't officially there. Now let's ask the harder questions. Is the industry doing enough to separate entertainment from real-life consequences? Are artists being supported, or just marketed until something goes wrong? And when legal situations arise, who controls the narrative, the courts, or the internet? Because right now, both are playing a role. The legal system is moving step by step, slowly, carefully, based on evidence. Meanwhile, the internet moves instantly, emotionally, driven by reaction. Those two speeds don't match. And in that gap, confusion grows. Nothing is confirmed yet, but the impact is already visible. Fans are questioning everything, artists are watching closely, and the culture itself is reflecting on what this moment means. Not just for Durk, but for everyone connected to this world. And maybe that's the bigger picture. Not just what happens in court, but what happens outside of it. How stories are shaped, how people react, and how quickly narratives can take on a life of their own. Because as this situation continues to unfold, one thing is becoming clear. This isn't just a case. It's a moment that could redefine how people see the intersection of music, reality, and responsibility. So now you've seen the full picture, at least the parts we can actually piece together right now. A rising empire, a federal case, a delayed trial, and a name like King Von continuing to echo in conversations around Lil Durk. But let's be clear one more time, nothing has been proven in court yet. These are allegations, timelines, and questions that are still unfolding. And that's what makes this so intense. Because we're not looking at a finished story, we're watching it happen in real time. So here are the questions that really matter. Why was the trial delayed at such a critical moment? What evidence will actually be presented when the case begins? And why does it feel like the past, especially everything connected to King Von, keeps finding its way back into the conversation? Let that sink in. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this is just a legal case playing out step by step? Or is there something deeper going on behind the scenes that we're not fully seeing yet? Drop your opinion in the comments. Not just a quick take, really break it down. Because this is one of those moments where the culture is divided and every perspective adds something to the conversation. And if you want more content like this where we rewind the tape, follow the paperwork, and separate facts from speculation, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because this story, it's still developing. And when the next update drops, you're gonna want to be here for it.